Good afternoon, I'm Jess De Los Santos. This is One News Now. The IATF is expected to decide on the fate of NCR Plus, which has been placed under a stricter lockdown due to rising COVID-19 cases. Now let's talk more about this with MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos joining us live over the phone. Good afternoon, sir.
Jess, good afternoon, and all the viewers, good afternoon.
All right, so sir, first off, have you met with NCR mayors to assess the ongoing ECQ? If not yet, what do you think will be the consensus on whether or not the ECQ will be extended? All right, I think we lost Chairman Abalos on the line. We'll try to get back to him later in the program. But for now, one lawmaker is pushing for the implementation of a vaccine passport system in the country. Ang Provinciano Party List Representative Ronnie Ong told Agenda that there's no need for a law to impose it, as an executive order would suffice. Ong said vaccine passports would be beneficial, especially for overseas Filipino workers. The congressman also allayed fears that the scheme could lead to discrimination against the unvaccinated.
In reality ng buhay ngayon, if you choose not to be vaccinated, that is really your choice. But at least those who will be vaccinated, hindi naman sila mali-discriminate dahil meron mga papeles or mga documentation that might come out na hindi real or fake.
All right, going back to our story earlier about the possibility of ECQ in the NCR Plus bubble being extended. To talk more about that, we have on the line MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos. Good afternoon again, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Sir, so have you met with the NCR mayors to assess the ongoing ECQ, and what do you think will be the consensus among the local chief executives?
Well, as of now, we're still trying to have a poll with our Viber group. We'll know it in about 2 hours, and then we'll submit it to the IATF for tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, so you are yet to come up with a consensus, but this is something that you are talking about via Viber.
Yes, right now.
So if not the ECQ, sir, the Octa Research Group suggests another 2 weeks of at least modified ECQ. What's your take on this?
Well, I can't talk for the group. We're still having a poll. But personally, for me, probably a much lower than what we have right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, do you have other recommendations, especially, for example, in specific areas here, the likes of public transportation?
Well, as far as it's not only transportation, but some of the businesses. But this must always be calibrated with what's happening with the hospitals now, because the main reason why we had this ECQ is because our ICU, our hospitals are full right now. But as of April 8th, let me give you the figures, Jess. For Metro Manila, the COVID beds is 79.7%, the capacity for the ICU. And for the COVID wards, it's about 82.3%. And the ventilators is about 60.2%. Now, what do these numbers represent? It means for COVID beds with 79.7, more or less, they're in the groupings of high risk already. And the COVID wards with 82.3, it's also on the high risk. So that is the category that we have right now. So it's up for our economic managers, for our health team, more or less to discuss this and to calibrate health with economy.
But given those figures as well, sir, in your assessment, would you say at least a 2-week ECQ has been effective, or has it served its purpose?
Well, we must really compare this with the previous weeks. It's about 2 weeks ago. But one silver lining here, Jess, is what we will call the reproduction rate of the virus. Meaning if one virus will have about, let's say, 10 offsprings. Now it's no longer 10, but a little lower than that. It could be 6, it could be 5. It's the Octa finding. For us, it's a good news, although it's still going up, as with other countries all over the world right now, be it Poland, France, even Canada, Europe. But one should really be calibrated right now. It's not only health, but also our economy.
Okay, now, sir, it's also over 3 weeks now since a unified curfew hours in NCR was implemented. Do you think this should be retained based on your assessment?
It's really for the mayors. No, I'm just a coordinator of the mayors. But if you're going to ask me personally, me myself, I think we should really move on to a much lighter quarantine.
All right. Now, on the distribution of ayuda, what measures are you taking to ensure that health protocols are being observed? Because that's not what we're seeing on the ground at the moment.
Well, actually, one thing about this is that only 15 days were given to the mayors to distribute this ayuda. That's the problem. It's a time limit. Secondly, the list that were just given about 2 days ago. And the ayuda itself was given about 2 days ago. So the mayors, aside from having this vaccination on their hands, aside from having this isolation, aside from having this quarantine, granular lockdowns, tracing, testing, their hands are really full right now. So it is not a perfect thing that's happening right now, but of course, we could still correct some of these things.
Do you agree with proposals to extend the distribution of aid, and at the same time, there are also proposals to make it house-to-house instead?
Yes, there should really be an extension, but if we're going to make it house-to-house, it will really need a long extension because it will mean a lot of efforts right now, Jess. As I was telling you a while ago, the employees right now on the ground, are having quite a hard time with contact tracers. They're having quite a hard time with the vaccination, and of course the granular lockdowns. They've got to give meals, morning, lunch, even evenings to those who have lockdowns. Not mentioning the fact also groceries for them. So their hands are really so full right now. The mayors I'm talking about.
Okay, lastly, do you have any information as to whether mayors in Metro Manila heed the approved recommendation to get vaccinated early to improve vaccine confidence?
Well, actually,
Right, I think we're having a bit of a problem there with the connection with MMDA Chairman Ben-Hur Albalas. But then again, thank you, Chairman, for your time this afternoon. Let's now take a look at COVID-19 vaccine stories from around the world. Costa Rica will use AstraZeneca's vaccine after assessing a report by the European Medicines Agency on its possible link to extremely rare cases of brain blood clots. The Central American country is set to distribute 43,000 doses of the Oxford-made shot from the COVAX facility. Egypt has committed to produce up to 80 million doses of China's Sinovac vaccine annually. The agreement is seen to boost the country's vaccination efforts for its 100 million population. HSBC and Asian Development Bank will provide a combined $300 million in financing to rev up Asia's COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing. The two lenders will offer funds through trade loans and invoice financing, among others. Expert from the Johns Hopkins University says crowd interactions, especially those indoors, are still the biggest COVID-19 worry. Let's find out why in this Bloomberg interview.
Less about density and it's more about the interactions you have. So obviously in dense places, you're more likely to come in contact with people. But I think increasingly we're finding that it's not just these casual interactions. It's really, sitting inside of a restaurant with somebody that's not inside of your family without your masks on. Really crowded indoor spaces are our biggest worry.
What about crowded outdoor spaces, including 38,000 watching the Texas Rangers a few days ago?
Yeah, so that's not great. I mean, outdoor spaces are generally safer, but when you pack people right next to each other and they're sitting there for a long time, basically breathing and yelling in each other's faces, that's really a high risk for transmission.
So is a concern here that the more people who get infected in the United States, especially with the new variant, the higher the threshold to reach some sort of herd immunity, that more of the population has to be inoculated?
Well, the concern here is just that we have vaccines now that can prevent people from, getting sick. And so at this point, anybody who gets sick, and worse, anybody who's hospitalized from this virus, I mean, it's a particular tragedy because we know now that this is a vaccine preventable illness. So we'd like people to not get sick until we can reach them with a vaccine. So that's really the urgency here. We're going to reach some level of immunity either through the natural infections that people are experiencing or the vaccine. I would really prefer the vaccine because each additional person that gets sick, there's a probability that we could have additional loss of life.
There's a sense that things are going to get better. The pandemic will end. It is sort of just the path there, as you say. I do wonder, though, how much some of the turmoil around the AstraZeneca vaccine slows the progress of getting to the end of the pandemic. Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I'm really worried about that. I mean, I think here in the United States, we're in much better circumstances. We've been rolling out vaccines really quickly, and we're not dependent on AstraZeneca at this point. But other countries are wholly dependent on it. So the fact that there are, supply issues in terms of countries preventing exports, as well as, perhaps countries being not willing to use the vaccine because of some of the recent safety concerns. In my view, the safety concerns have to be balanced against the risk of infection, which at this point globally is very high. So I'm worried about that. I mean, we need all resources on the table right now to bring this pandemic to an end.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.